let's open the meeting. September meeting of Auburn Water District. So where do we want to start? Approve the minutes of, we have a few minutes to approve because we have had a couple of minutes since we've had the last meeting. So do we want to, is there a motion to approve the minutes and then we can entertain discussion?
Make a motion to approve the minutes of the regular meeting, July 17th, 2024.
Is there a second?
Second.
Oh, okay, so do we have any discussion about the minutes? I would
like to make one comment on the minutes from July. So on the page 3, the vote, there was a few lines added there after review of the video. It was unclear what the motion was, but the vote was to table the appointments to the commission to the next meeting of the Board of Trustees. It did not include the language of the trustee representative. So, anyways, I did not want to amend it until you read it, but that is in the draft minutes, whether you choose to remove that or not.
So there's a question about whether the motion, and I'm going to elaborate on this a little bit more, and I apologize for the process that happened. I think it kind of steamrolled through, and we were very unclear about exactly what was happening and how and the wording of things. So I think that, as you'll see on today's agenda, we have a solution to address that. We can go back and amend, but I think my preference would be maybe to put an asterisk on the minutes from that meeting and note that we, as our next meeting, current meeting, September meeting, we've decided to retake this vote. Is that clear enough? I think it's just stating what has happened. So rather than going back through the wording of exactly what was written in the minutes at this time on the July meeting, we're maybe putting an asterisk, if I'm asking a question, I guess, for debate if needed.
Yeah, that's something that, we're going to have that vote. These are the minutes of a meeting in July 17th, yep. And I think Mike's point's correct, that there should be a correction to the minutes and then we should vote on it. And we'll adopt it because going back and putting an asterisk, something we're going to do today and put it in minutes.
So we're approving the minutes, so I think that my point was that the confusion, I think was, and I take responsibility, was partially my mistake, that I understood something to be a certain way, sure. And it didn't end up necessarily, the wording was in question, called into question. So are we approving again, opening this up for discussion, are we approving the minutes as is?
Well,
or are we putting some note to say?
Mike's suggesting we take the word representative out of that motion, is that right?
Yeah, basically saying add an S to appointment, so it's appointments, and then remove of the trustee representative. So it was to table appointment.
So the only potential question I would raise, which I think is fair, after the first vote happened and we went to the second one, and the second one was the one that was in question, which again, this is ambiguous, so I'm not sure we're going to find a solution to it, but I think the point is that second vote was where this motion came up.
Sure.
And I don't know that it was to cover both. I don't know.
Well,
I honestly, I'm very confused and I don't know.
I don't
so
think
I've asked,
I
and
don't
that's
think
why
it matters. What Mike's saying is, I watched the tape, this is what the language of the motion is, we should just correct the minutes and move on, because we all understand what happened and that we need to have another vote. We're going to have that, it's on the agenda.
And you see my point though, that correcting it to specify other than the motion which was specifically related to the second
Mike
vote.
Is here.
I get that, but the point is you can only correct it to what actually happened. You can't editorialize in the minutes. Is that correct, Mike?
But I think that's a fair question that's been raised, and we've discussed it with legal counsel that it's ambiguous and it wasn't clear. So I don't want to change the minutes and say this was where we were implying both, because I don't know what we were implying.
The only thing is the comment when there was a motion, I motioned to table, that came up, and then there was discussion on the motion to table, but at no point did anybody say of the trustee representative. That phrase was never added to the motion or to the vote. it might have been discussed before that, you know, the first vote did fail. There was a 3-3 and then a 3-3. Those votes failed. Before they got to the next vote, there was a motion to table.
So to your point, the specifics of the question, the specifics were what they were. I don't know that they were, we want to change it necessarily, because I think if they're accurate for what was said, whether it was ambiguous or not,
Right.
we should.
Yeah, exactly. I think Mike's pointing out, he listened to the tape, what's written down in the minutes isn't what was said. We should correct it with what was said, pass the minutes, move on. They're just what they are, and we all know what we gotta do to get things back on track.
Correct.
Mike, do you have any input here at all?
Well, I will add that it was entirely confusing. And I think everybody's acknowledged that. I like the mayor's suggestion. I think if the board wants to amend the minutes to say table the appointments to the next meeting, and then I think we move forward.
So
I
just
think
to
that's
raise
fine.
one
And-
very specific question, I didn't want to get into this, I was hoping we'd steam through this, but very specifically, we did not, the motion wasn't to table, and that motion wasn't amended. We accepted what was discussed, I accepted what was discussed, and again, I apologize for the ambiguity, but I accepted what was discussed, but I think in the very end, I said, let's table this, or something like that was the final, but it wasn't, this wasn't clear. So my objection to amending and being more specific is that if we're saying it was not applicable just to one.
So I understand your point, but we're not trying to have a big discussion about what the intent was. All we're trying to do is write in the minutes what was the actual motion that was said. And the minutes are the minutes. Everybody understands it wasn't clear. Everybody understands where we've got to. We understand we gotta have the vote again. That's great. So.
Then clearly, to my interpretation of what you just said, clearly we leave it as is.
No,
We
no.
cannot amend it if we don't know if it was ambiguous. If it was too ambiguous and we don't know exactly what was intended or what was specifically said, it did not say these two,
Well,
when we said it, did it say these two or did it not?
the point
It doesn't-
of the minutes isn't to clarify ambiguities or not, it's to record what happened.
Okay,
We can
did
all
we
read
say
them and
these
make
two or
our
not?
own conclusion. So I would move to amend the motion that's on the floor is to accept the minutes. I would move to amend on page 3 of the July 17, 2024 minutes in the third paragraph that the motion be corrected to read to table the appointments to the commission to the next meeting of the Board of Trustees.
So we had a motion.
And
And a
I'm
second.
moving to.
So you're
I'm
amending-
moving to amend, the motion was to accept the minutes, I'm moving to amend to add this correction into that.
So to amend the original motion to accept the minutes, we would need a second in discussion.
I'll second that, just because I really think it's just cleaner just to correct what Mike heard and say. We're gonna talk about all
Is
this.
there a consequence of doing that?
I don't think so.
Can
I
I make a
think-
motion to amend the motion?
No, stop.
And take my name off, because I
One
didn't
second.
say
We have a
that.
very specific motion to amend.
This is really
So-
getting confusing now.
I agree, and I think that's what was my point, was to go down this road and start to debate exactly what happened, we would need the specific wording to look at it and say, this is exactly what was said. So your recollection might be,
This
we
isn't
said
my-
both,
this-
but my recollection is I don't know.
This
And it
isn't
was
my,
ambiguous to the point where, that's why we're revoting, so
this
I
isn't,
disagree.
Jason,
and I
this
think we
is
should
not
move
my
on.
recollection. I didn't go back and look at the tape. The superintendent, when the motion was made to accept these minutes, pointed out that he did review the tape, and what's recorded in the minutes isn't what was said. And all we're doing is correcting it to what was said. There's nothing more to it than that.
Well, I don't know, I just remember saying something to the effect to the August 7th meeting, special meeting that we have.
That's what I was assuming.
Yeah, so I just want my name off of it if you guys are trying to fix.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any deliberation about the specifics of the motion?
Can there even be a motion if Dan's?
Well, I mean, I don't want my
Well, you-
name on
you-
it, that's all. It's
you
just,
strike
I can make an
either-
amendment to the motion.
can't.
Just take my name off.
Strike the
He
motion.
asked for an
Right
amendment,
now you have
and
a
he has
motion and a second
so
to
we're gonna go
amend.
back to the original motion to approve the minutes as is, unless there are votes to authorize what has been motioned and seconded, correct?
And just, if you want me to chime in, I mean,
Sorry
to
to
the
come to
extent,
this.
no, it is complicated, or at least confusing. I mean, to the extent that, to the point, Jeff's point, if the motions are passed, if the minutes are approved as written, it's fine,
Right.
because somebody can go back and dispute later on exactly what the motion was, because we do have the tape. I'm hoping we don't get to that point.
And not that I don't trust you,
I
I believe
yeah.
what you're saying, I
Believe me,
don't recall it
I will
that way.
agree,
so-
I will agree with Mike that it was somewhat confusing and, I mean, just good, sort of board practices, be a little cleaner on the motions, and I'm
Yeah,
not.
and that's my
Jay,
fault.
just,
I'll take that,
and-
yeah.
And just,
It's,
for the
I should
record,
have been more
yeah,
clear.
Jay,
I
not
should
your
have
fault.
restated it.
Nobody needs to sort of fall on their sword. It was not really clear because there was a lot of talking, like there is now. If you approve the minutes as they are now, I think you're fine because, as everybody's pointed out, we've got some ambiguity. We're going to hopefully address that later on. So I don't frankly think we need to spend a lot of time on the minutes. Try to get them approved and move on.
We have a motion and a second to amend the first motion. Anybody else, can we call for a vote if there's no further discussion? On amending,
Just to be clear, yeah, you're voting on the amended minutes?
Amendment to the minutes.
to approving the minutes. Everybody understand that? I want to make sure we're 100% clear.
So, yeah, actually, I just want to clarify them because I'm here. I mean, is the vote on the amended minutes, which is what Jeff
Yes.
proposed,
Well, the motion on the floor
is your
is to correct the minutes.
Right.
Right.
So take a vote on that.
The
If
motion
it-
was,
for
first
example-
motion was to amend, to accept the minutes.
Yep,
Yeah.
Second
Those
this
correct
motion
them.
was to change the first motion. So
No, yeah.
are we
Well,
changing the first motion to correct?
And that's the
the
vote.
minutes?
As I understand it, the vote is an amendment with a second to amend the minutes. If it fails, I would suggest you probably go back to the original.
right, exactly,
Approve the minutes, move on, and we'll
Okay.
sort it out.
right.
Are we clear on what this vote will be? So can we have a vote to amend the motion to approve the minutes?
So all in favor to amend the
All in
minutes,
favor to amend the minutes?
which is striking the words trustee
Yes.
representative.
Keeping my name on it, right? I would prefer my name was
To
off.
say, to make it plural.
Yep,
Appointment.
yep,
Okay. Can we vote? All in favor of amending the minutes as such? Okay, so we have four, and all opposed, okay, so that's settled, that's good, and we've moved on.
no, now you need
So
to
now we're gonna
vote on
vote on the,
accepting the minutes,
Accepting-
approving the minutes, so that's, you're back to your main motion,
Yep.
and the motion is
Exactly.
to approve the minutes as amended.
yes. So, hearing no further discussion, can we call for a vote and all in favor of approving the minutes as amended? Okay, so we got four. All opposed?
I guess I didn't.
Yep. So it passes, and we got one thing down. Good job, guys. So we did it. So we made it for
Only 15.
Next on the agenda. Now, what I'm not sure of, and you guys can help me out, Mike and Mike. I was ambiguous again. I shouldn't have been. Was this to approve all the minutes or just the specifics of the
Separate
July?
agenda items.
Yes,
Okay.
July.
Yeah.
Separate votes.
Thank you. So I'm going to be brutally clarification from now on of every single thing that I say because we have to. So now the next item on the agenda is to approve the minutes of this meeting from August 7th, the special meeting. We have a motion to approve those minutes.
I move that we approve the minutes of the special meeting of August 7th, 2024.
Thank you, Bob. And do we have a second?
I'll
We have a
second.
second. So Is there further discussion about the August 7th minutes? Yes.
Small correction.
Okay.
There's a typo on the vote, 4 in favor, 2 opposed, 1 abstention. I had not arrived at that time, so I was actually absent, not abstaining.
Correct. Yep, thank you. Does that make sense? Do we have that down?
Yep.
I don't know that we need to amend the motion because that's a fact
To correct.
of correction in the discussion. Okay, I want to be sitting here. Thank you. So unless there's objection.
I'd vote to approve as amended.
Okay. So he's made the motion to make the amendment. Is there any other discussion first? Let's get it all out. Is there any other discussion about the minutes of the August 7th meeting other than the correction? So there's a motion to make the correction. Is there a second? Can we vote on whether we're going to make this correction? Everybody all set? So let's call for a vote on whether we're going to make the correction as stated out. Yes, unanimous. So we made that correction. Now we go back to the original motion is to approve the minutes of the special meeting as corrected.
Make a motion that we approve minutes.
August 7th. We actually had, yep. So,
Who did
okay.
the second on that? Okay. Thank you.
Technically, we might go back to the original motion, but.
Correct.
So Bob and
Eric.
Yeah, this is-
Yeah.
unfortunately,
This one.
Yeah, it's all right, it's all right.
So all in favor of what I ambiguously just said? Again. Okay, so we've amended it, it was approved, and now we've approved the minutes as amended. Next is, can we entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the regular meeting from August 21st, which was?
Make a motion that we approve the minutes of the regular meeting, August 21st, 2024.
Okay.
I second his motion.
So there were no minutes.
Well,
Yeah, this minutes.
it's
Well,
just,
small.
There was no meeting.
No meeting.
So why are we
Yeah.
approving minutes? That's my question.
Because
There's no
yeah,
meeting.
because it goes on record and shows that we had a public meeting, some members of the public showed up, and this is what officially happened.
you were relaxed hour.
Right.
So we have a
Even though we got an email earlier said the meeting was canceled?
Right, because we didn't send the email out to all the public. So we stayed, and people did show up, and
Gotcha.
Probably need 7 days advance notice.
So to clarify, we have a motion in a second. Any further discussion?
The question, I mean, so you have to abstain, if you weren't present for a meeting, don't you have to abstain? from
Right, so
voting
you don't have
on
a
the minutes?
quorum to approve these minutes.
No, but
No, you have a quorum at the meeting. Some members, you just have to have a quorum for the meeting, right? Not
Right
every
now, we have a
vote. So
quorum.
there's a quorum right now. What's gonna happen in the vote is those that weren't here are going to abstain. And the
If
three of
they
us that
want,
were
I
here.
don't think there's a requirement that
You
if we
can't-
choose to approve the minutes as,
You can't vote to approve on minutes for a meeting that you were not there at. So you're gonna take
is
the,
that, I just quite, sorry to go down this road, but is that?
the Robert's Rules issue, right? So just take the vote, the three of us there will vote, the other four will abstain, and we'll move on.
Yes.
Jason, can we not have a trustee give legal advice? We have our attorney here. So just from here and out, is that okay? I mean, we have our
I
attorney
mean,
here.
I will say, just, it's a
We're
procedural
lucky
issue,
to
so
have Mike here, so let's just get
I mean-
it done, please.
a lot of folks have procedural sort of experience with, and I'm not an expert on Robert's rules. Generally, I've seen people vote on minutes, even if they're not there, haven't read Robert's rules, just to get them approved and move on.
And that's my experience as well, that's why I say it. I don't
I mean,
know, if it's a violation. If it says
Put it this
in
way.
Robert's rules it's a violation, then I stand corrected.
Understanding that I don't think the minutes are contentious,
Right.
their report of what happened in the last meeting was fairly benign, because it really didn't happen, so, I'm fine either way. I'm hoping it's not a divided vote.
So it's up to the president then, at this point.
And in my mind, if there are, if
people want to
the
abstain,
people
so-
not present decide to abstain, and it doesn't matter, because the
Right.
vote is approved.
Right.
So, you know what, I am fine. Let's move on.
Just call-
I will abstain because I wasn't there. You can choose to do what you want. can we please vote on the minutes?
Can I call a vote?
Yes, please.
Move forward.
All in favor of moving on from the, approving the minutes from the non-meeting?
So one of the three of us here should do this.
There's already a motion. and
We already have a motion and
Yeah.
second, and I'm
Yeah.
abstaining.
Call the vote.
I've chosen to abstain. You can choose to.
Oh, same as well.
Okay. All those in favor?
All those in favor? We have four. Good. Thank you. Apologies for the pulling teeth. We have a public comment section here.
Skip over to.
Oh, yep, I skipped Daphne, sorry.
You guys keep forgetting me.
I know. But
That's really cool, yeah, don't
I
forget.
don't know how to follow all that now. I got me.
We didn't put you to sleep.
Okay, so one thing I want to say is the more time I've spent doing this, I'm becoming more familiar. Mike and his colleagues and his crew have been graciously assisting us with setting us up special files that we don't have to go hunt like we have the past couple of months for everything that we need. I'm looking forward to that in the future. That will save a tremendous amount of time. What I can do is tell you that your revenues are up 179,000 versus what you had budgeted for, which is fantastic. And they're up 148,000.6 from this time last year. So you're doing fantastic with your revenue. Your expenses, they're up 148,000 over budget. We all know we've said it in the past, that's due to your UV plan. 110 over budget, 110,000 over budget, so that's where your stickler is on that. But overall, when you look at it, with your revenue increase versus your expense, you're hanging in there very, you're strong, you're covering yourself. Other than that, looking at your balance sheet, I only see a variance from one year to the next over 200,000 to the good. So you're staying strong and you're staying steady from what I can see.
Payrolls up 111,000 plus.
Let me switch.
The first line under expenses,
Give me just one moment to switch files because it's not.
that was a big increase, the payroll, 111,000 over the budget. I just wanted to
Are
point
you
that
looking?
out.
Are you looking at the analysis report?
Yeah, I'm looking at this one. Can you see this?
This? No, I
No,
don't see
where's the
it.
screen?
That's the camera.
There.
The operating statement.
Operating expenses,
Page one.
Okay, what one? The profit and loss center?
No, it's the operating statement.
operating statement, trustees report, top of the page.
And the one that was in the packet was the one ending in July.
Period ending, yeah, July 31.
Where did we wind up in August, Daphne?
Okay, give me one moment. You got a lot of screens here. Right now, you're below 4.32%. If you're looking in January, the 110,000, is that what you're looking at? That?
Period ending July 30th, 31, 2024.
Can we look at the August one though? Because I'll
He
be
doesn't,
honest
he
with you.
doesn't have it in front of him, I just realized I didn't print those off, so we didn't get them in time to disperse them in the packet, so,
So don't worry about it then. If this is not the best current news, we'll move on.
no, we're actually
Yeah, he
below
does have
budget.
August.
I'm good, we're good.
Yep.
Thank you, I'm good. I just know what I saw, that's all.
Actually, I can tell you where you are in August. You're 4.32% below budget.
Thank you.
Okay, for August. So sometimes it is a timing issue that the 5 weeks in a month rolls or the way the date rolls into the next. But you seem to even out. I've been watching it go back and forth. And like I said, the more I'm becoming more familiar with your system, the more I can catch and see things. But you are definitely 4.32% below right now at the end of August.
Good news, thank you.
You're welcome.
Very good. Any further updates or questions? Okay, hearing none, we will
All right, thank you guys.
move on.
Thank you.
Have a
Thank
good
you.
evening.
You too.
Take care, bye.
Thank you. All right, next on our agenda is public comment, and to clarify, there's a lot of things that I think need clarifying that we can discuss, but this is for anything that's not specifically on the agenda. I think we've been pretty informal about this in the past, and I think we should just, it's my preference, that we, anything that's not on the agenda, feel free, members of the public, to speak. When we come to items in the agenda per our bylaws, we do have a process where we are asking the public to notify the president and/or superintendent ahead of time prior to the call to order. That's just rewording specifically from our bylaws. Again, I don't think we'll need to be, unrealistic about this. If somebody has something to say, we'll be reasonable, but that's the way I'd like to handle it. So if there's something not on the agenda that the public would like to speak about, I would open the floor to members of the public now.
Yes, I'd like to give a brief report. The city in July passed a comprehensive amendment to the parts of the Lake Auburn Watershed Overlay District Ordinance governing septic systems and their construction and configuration, placement, and also established a map of 5 different areas for inspection of those systems over a 5-year annual basis. That came about as a result of extensive committee work in a committee from last winter and spring that Dan, Mike, and I were on. And at the commission meeting in August, it was discussed briefly, but the commissioners wanted to have more explanation about the content of the ordinance because it's very extensive. So the city designated John Blay of the Planning and Permitting Department, who'd been also a member of that committee that Mike, Dan, and I were on, to make an explanation. John called me up and asked me to accompany him. So we went to the commission meeting last week and made a presentation on the content of the ordinance and the inspection program and the 5-year period for it, and also the fact that the Protection Commission was being looked to take a leading role in organizing this activity. There's been some money that was made available for education and outreach, but not directly to the commission, to the district and to the Lewiston Water Division. So how to utilize that money, whether to seek a contractor, whether to hire someone, those are decisions that have to be made by the commission, and there's a subcommittee of the commission which consists of Mike, Erica Kidd, and Kevin Gagne in their respective roles as members of a subcommittee to bring that to greater fruition and realization and present that, I believe, at the November meeting, Mike?
We don't have to conclude it by the November meeting, but
make a report.
We're going to make a report. Yeah.
Yeah. Is that an accurate statement of what's occurred?
Yep.
Hi, Evan Sear, Auburn resident. So I'm here, you might notice I've got a slightly younger person with me. This is my daughter Amelia. She grew up listening to me, with planning board, and the poor child has had to watch or listen to more planning board and city council meetings than I think most adults have had to. So
you're torturing with this.
Right. So, but as of interest was when I told her that I was coming to this meeting, she just kind of asked if she could come, and I told her yes, and she actually asked if kids were allowed. So I thought this would be a really good exercise in demonstrating that the meetings are public meetings and
My
they're for
son
the
Jimmy
public.
said the same thing.
Right. Yeah. So she was.
Am I allowed?
Yeah, she was really surprised. She even asked again on the way down, "Is this going to be okay?" Yeah, absolutely. If you would like to be there, you're allowed to be there. So, so that's her, and I don't know. Maybe this is good. Maybe we're fostering another generation of municipal, quasi-municipal officials. But
Thanks for coming.
yeah.
Welcome, man.
Welcome.
So, on a different point, I think one thing I did want to kind of bring up, just as a resident watching everything that's been going on, is wondering when the last time the bylaws were reviewed and revised. Only because I think there's lots of questions about what the bylaws say and what they don't say, and I wonder if it would just be helpful for trustee members, but also members of the public who watch meetings, if there was a regular review schedule or something like that, so.
Thank you. 2020, actually, and I don't know that there has been a revised, excuse me, I don't know that there has been any requirement per our bylaws to revise it like there are to review every 5 years the bylaws for protection of Lake Auburn. We do have a requirement in those bylaws, but not for our bylaws that I know of. I have yet.
It just says from time-
99%
just-
sure.
It says
So-
from time to time. It does not
Right, yeah,
say
so it does say
a date.
We should review it. So 2020 is not super recent. I was part of it, and now being in this position, I do think there are good causes to take a look at it, and would be very willing to open a discussion, maybe for a future agenda item, to see how we handle that if we take that up and get some opinions. Maybe we can just informally ask if there are strong opinions, anyone from members of the public or the board, if you have any strong opinions, I would love to hear them. And then I think that let's make an agenda item, Mike, if we're not too swamped for the next either 1 or 2 meetings from now. Let's take that up and decide what to do.
Yeah,
Keeping in mind that we do not have an assistant superintendent with us now, so Mike is doing 2 people's jobs.
Yep.
So this.
Or finance director.
Pardon?
Or finance director, so add another one to the.
3 jobs right now, so we need to keep that in mind by adding to his plate,
Yeah,
okay?
I do.
Until maybe later on, when he's gonna have some more time, when they get too busy to fill that he's not covering for it.
Absolutely. And my request specifically, just is if there are trustees that feel strongly about changes to the bylaws, let me know. And let's together put on the agenda either this next one or the one after.
Well, and Mr. President, to be clear about my point, it wasn't that necessarily the bylaws need to be revised. I think when you have those clauses in there, when you have those clauses in there, it requires everyone to review. So whether revision happens or not is almost secondary. It's really almost like ensuring there's training on the bylaws on a regular basis. So.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you. So the end of public comment, and we have this time consent agenda items.
Did Amelia
Did
want
you
to
want to
speak?
say anything?
Okay.
Let me readjust the camera over here.
We're running on the Auburn Sewer District Committee trustees.
So we have, next on the agenda is consent agenda items. So we don't typically do this, but we have a stacked agenda today, and we'd like to include in a motion to accept. Someone's trying to get in. I think we can do this possibly without this. Do we have a motion? So, okay, let me explain very clearly. We have consent agenda items. There are 5 items: the employee safety recognition, the project update, the water quality update, the staff update, the commission update, that were included in our packet, sent to all trustees and notified to the public. So I would like to entertain a motion to accept these consent agenda items. All in one.
Move the approval of the consent.
I'll second that.
Motion and a second. We have discussion. Any discussion about the consent agenda items? And maybe I can wait for Mike in case he wants to add anything to the discussion. Do you have something to say?
Yeah, if it's a consent agenda, once the motion's made, you vote on it.
Okay.
You don't need any
Thank you.
discussion.
For that, council. I didn't know that, and I appreciate it. So we've got a motion and a second to accept the consent agenda items. All in favor?
Discussion? No discussion?
Yes, no apologies. I did ask for discussion.
Thank you, I was waiting for it.
So,
Just to
Jeff?
note, that Mike make a note about the water quality update, how good it is.
Well, in consent agendas, you have to vote to open the consent agenda.
Okay, so we're voting to open it.
No.
No, you're voting to approve the consent agenda.
the motion is to approve.
Okay, I
The
can
water
vote
quality
afterwards.
update
Thank
is
you.
in my memo.
I'll wait till we vote.
Thank you.
Those are what we're voting on.
Yeah,
Thank you very much.
I was able to look through it, yeah.
So, all in favor of approving the consent agenda items? Unanimous, thank you.
Now I'd like Mike to make a quick statement about the quality of the lake.
I'm sorry, Bob, but I can't do that.
You can't, okay.
So,
Trustee open session.
Yeah,
Trustee
trustee
open
open session,
session.
go for it. So next is the executive session in accordance with 1 MRSA, I should put my glasses on, 4056A, for the purpose of discussion or consideration of investigation or hearing and/or hearing of complaints relating to the Auburn Water District bylaws, Article 8, 7, Code of Ethics, apologies. So we are moving to executive session. We don't need a
You don't vote for that?
vote for
Yes,
this.
you do. You vote to go in.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
Okay,
Make a motion
all in
to go
favor?
into executive session.
Motion to go into
Second.
executive session. Second, all in favor?
Yeah, so after that,
Bob,
one little
Bob.
thing to deal with.
Bob, are you in favor of going to executive session or do you oppose? Okay, unanimous, thank you. Okay, I declare us out of executive session.
Mr. President, I'd make a motion that the board find that board member Daniel Bilodeau breached Article 8, Section 5 of the bylaws of the Auburn Water District.
Your motion, is there a second?
Second.
Motion to vote?
Because, right, no deliberation. So I'll call for a vote.
Second.
So we've got a motion and a second, and yes, is a violation occurred. All in favor? All opposed?
Abstain.
Abstain.
So is that 2 to 3?
2, 3, 2.
Yes.
Well, 2, 3, 1, because Dan's already.
Yep.
Mr.
So the
President,
motion fails.
I
Yes,
make a
sir.
motion the board find that board member Daniel Bilodeau breached Article 8, Section 11 of the bylaws of the Auburn Water District.
There's a motion, is there a second?
Second.
Call for a vote. Yes is that a violation occurred, no is that it did not. All in favor? 3. All opposed?
I'm excluded.
You're excluded. 3-3.
Yes, the motion does not.
So neither passed.
And again, for this specific, it does require 5, so it's irrelevant. So now we go into,
Need a motion to go back into executive session.
we have a motion to go into executive session in accordance with.
I was hoping she would.
All right.
I told her, I said, I'm so sorry.
Motion,
Obviously,
is there a
executive
second?
Second.
1 MSRA 4056E consultations between, sorry, this is the continuation of the prior, apologies, it's not, so, the previous one. So we have motion and second, all in favor of going to executive session? Yes. All right,
Kristen.
That's the way it goes.
thank you guys for hanging
Bring
around.
pizza.
Pizza, something. It's your own personal choice.
Actually, I was the one, we did use 3 minutes for.
We actually have agenda items.
And when I was chair, I said, no, we're using 5 because this is what it says.
Go home, go home.
Yes.
Close.
Okay, I declare us out of executive session.
Mr. President,
Yes.
I would like to make a motion to find Mayor Jeff Harmon, trustee of the Auburn Water District, in violation of Article 8 of the Code of Ethics of the Auburn Water District bylaws regarding professionalism.
Second.
Motion and a second. No deliberation. All in favor of yes being affirmative to the violation, no being no. All in favor. All opposed? Okay. We do not have 5 as per required in the bylaws, and we move on to the next agenda item. Okay. Why does this say executive session?
That is not the correct agenda. This is the correct agenda.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Okay, Lake Auburn Watershed Protection Commission, 2 commissioner appointments. I think Mike can help me. I was gonna say this one, but you can.
Let this Mike.
What?
I've been talking too much.
Do you wanna let him just?
I'm gonna let
There
Mike
had been
run.
so much confusion that I think we.
I'll say this,
Okay.
sounds like Mike's pointing toward me. You know, when we make motions, when we take votes, we have to be very clear, you know, that the board itself is ready to make a motion, not more specifically that one member at one time. Because what I have seen over the last 3 to 4 years is that a motion will come out, and before a vote is taken, there are amendments to that motion, and it gets very confusing to what the original motion was. And it has kind of led us to where we're at tonight with the appointments of 2 seats on the commission. Through the July meeting and the August special meeting, there's just a lot of confusion, and to clear these things up, we are going to reaffirm the votes that were taken at the special meeting of August 7th. So we're going to basically go through the voting of the appointments again. So that's what you have in front of you tonight.
And just to, if this is procedurally correct, we don't need a new nomination. The nominations prior, 2 nominations stand? Is this correct? I just want to be 100%
Yes.
very clear this time.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, the nomination was made, so, and it needs to be voted on. Yeah, I'll leave it at that.
So the order we followed last time, I believe, was
The at-large seat.
the at-large seat, which the nomination was Evan Sear. In that this is a revote, do we need a motion in a second? I assume.
I would say if
Yes.
someone makes a motion to
Okay.
appoint Evan
We
Sear.
have
to
a
the
motion to
at-large
appoint
position.
Evan Sear to the
Make
at-large
a motion
position.
to.
We have a motion, is there a second?
I'll second.
Discussion. We've deliberated on this a couple of times, is there any discussion, or are we prepared to vote? Hearing nobody, all in favor of appointing Evan Sear as the at-large position? Okay. 5. All opposed? Okay, 2. Next one is Dan Bilodeau for the trustee position. Do we have a motion to appoint Dan Bilodeau as the trustee representative to the Protection Commission?
Sure. Make a
Motion,
motion.
is there a second?
Second.
Discussion?
Yeah, so I'll address this. I haven't addressed this during the previous meetings because it was pretty clear to me that the process was off the rails and we weren't going to have a valid vote. So I'm opposed to appointing Mr. Bilodeau, reappointing Mr. Bilodeau to Law Pack. If that fails, I would intend, as happened in the past, to nominate Mr. Bergeron. And here's my basis for this. So in 2021, and I'll preface this by saying, this is information that came from the city of Auburn in a report to me by the city of manager, as Ms. Collins mentioned before, and we've talked at length in the past about in the normal course of business, the city manager makes the mayor aware of a lot of things, including things that might have legal ramifications, might have political ramifications, things that might come into the media request and so forth. So the city manager approached me with a report that there was an ongoing land use violation by Mr. Bilodeau at his residence in the watershed. And the substance of this was, in 2021, Mr. Bilodeau approached the city and wanted permission to have some RV pads at his residence. And after some discussion, the city advised him that he could not do that. Mr. Bilodeau did not appeal that. He could have appealed that to the zoning board of appeals. He could have taken an ADB action. He did not appeal that, and the city proceeded with the understanding that Mr. Bilodeau, in fact, wasn't going to be engaging in having for rent RV sites at his residence. And the issue wasn't whether it's potentially you could have RV sites, it was around the issues related to the protection of Lake Auburn. 3 years later, in 2024, the code enforcement officers in Auburn were doing a routine inspection, having nothing to do with Mr. Bilodeau, and they observed camping going on his site. They did their investigation, and they found that there was 3 RV sites and 1 tent site. 2 of the RV sites full of hookups. 1 of them just had water and electric. They then proceeded with the usual course, they find a violation, work with the person about the issue. Clearly, Mr. Bilodeau is trying to remediate the issues that were presented, things like phosphorus control and subsurface wastewater and those types of things to satisfy the city that he can have that operation. My issue is not in any way related to this ongoing work to be able to satisfy the land use zoning requirements. In fact, I directly told the city manager and the planning director, as I do in any of these zoning issues, that they should do what they normally do, and they should work with Mr. Bilodeau, and if they can be remediated, they can be remediated, and if they can't, they can't. My issue is that from 2021 to 2024, Mr. Bilodeau, as a member of the Board of Trustees and sitting on LawPac, who of anyone in this city should understand the issues and regulations around water quality, disregarded the direction from the city, who is a regulatory body that has regulatory authority in the watershed to protect Lake Auburn. Didn't take an appeal. In the city's investigation, very shortly after this discussion, he was advertising these camping sites and had camping activity going on. So the point is, we're about to appoint someone to LawPac potentially, that's a regulatory body that mission is the protection of the water quality in Lake Auburn. And it reflects very poorly on the Auburn Water District and the Board of Trustees to be appointing a trustee who disregarded the direction of a regulatory body that is protecting the water quality in Lake Auburn and did what they wanted to do anyways. It's not like we don't have alternatives. We have other trustees that have stepped forward and said that they'll fulfill this role. And so that's my issue. The message that this Board of Trustees will send to the community to appoint Dan when he disregarded a regulatory agency and put him on a regulatory agency, it is going to be damaging to the Water District and the Board of Trustees.
Sorry?
Can we hear from Mr. Miller?
Sure.
Deliberation, so
Sure.
anybody that wants to.
I want to just point out first, there was no violation, notice of violation issued. Second, the new small-scale recreational use in the Ag Resource Protection Zone just came out 2 years ago. I don't know if you were probably on the board when they came out with a small-scale recreational zone. The third thing was, there was no disregard to Auburn zoning. Just like you said, I've been a part of the commission in the Water District for a very long time, and I know the rules, and I was within the rules because the state guidelines said when the Auburn doesn't have a certain definition, you go with state guidelines, said that a campground is considered 5 or more, and it wasn't in shoreline zoning. So I knew specifically that I could have RV sites. The third thing, that's the third thing, no disregard for city zoning. And the fourth was there was never any pollution concern. They all had subsurface wastewater disposal systems. I grew up installing those. They all had electrical permits. So we had wastewater permits, they had electrical permits. It was no secret. It's been on Hip Camp and Harvest Hose. You even seen that stuff, 4 years ago, 3 years ago. So, it was one of these things where Mayor Harmon picked up on it, thought, oh, smoking gun, Dan's a bad guy, I don't want him on the LawPac commission. And again, I feel like I'm being harassed. Oh, and this, incidentally, is something that John Blay had approved a few weeks ago, where they just wanted clarification of buffers. It shows the campsites, it shows the buffers, it shows the recreational trails. The proceeds to these campsites go to the Perkins Ridge Snow Travelers and the Lake Association to continue building and maintaining these trails. So no pollution concern. I'm a big recreational advocate. The watershed management plan says we need recreation in this community around Lake Auburn. We need non-invasive recreation, and everything I'm doing is non-invasive. And I'd be welcome to give you a tour, Mayor.
So look.
But can we hear from
Can I
someone
ask
else
a question? Can I just ask a question to clarify?
Because I feel like I'm being harassed.
You said there was a violation, you said there wasn't a violation, can we just,
Sure.
was there a violation?
Was there a notice of violation issued?
I want to know.
So let me make this very clear. Dan Billady just proved the point I was making. He said at the time in 2001, I knew better. And I knew all these rules. But Dan Billady...
But I stayed within the rules.
Dan Billady is not the regulatory authority in the city of Auburn. Auburn Planning and Permitting, the city of Auburn, enforces their regulations. And they sent in writing to Dan in 2001 and said, you cannot do this. He went ahead and did it anyway. I'm fine with all this stuff since then. In 2004, he's been working with them to satisfy this. And I'm not saying you can't have a campground there. My point is just what he said.
I can't have a campground.
In 2001, or not a campground, but you can have recreational pads there. My point is, in 2001, when the regular authority said, you can't do this, Dan said, well, I know better, and I'm just going to do what I want to do. That's the exposure the Auburn Water District is going to have when you put someone on LawPac and a regulatory board who's decided they know better than the regulatory authority and just want to do what they want to do.
Can I ask just a follow-up? I really want an answer to my question. I apologize if this is coming across as rude. Was there a violation notice issued? So please clarify, because you said to me, and maybe I misunderstood, and I think to this board, there was a violation.
Yes.
Was there a violation?
Yeah, so let me make sure everyone...
Just tell us what the violation was.
Let me make sure what everyone understands the term is. When code enforcement comes across violations of the ordinances, they tell the people that there's a violation, and they don't immediately summons them and give them a notice of violation.
What was the violation, John?
Dan, just let him finish, please.
That's important.
He's explaining.
Right, so what happens is the code enforcement officers try to work with a person to come into compliance. It's not like they go out and they go, aha, there's a violation, here's your summons. They tell them there's a violation, and that's exactly what happened in this case in 2024. They told Dan, hey, we told you couldn't do this before, here's our concerns.
What was the violation?
You cannot have, what they said in 2021 is he could have one personally owned RV on one pad for his own personal use, and he could not have...
And that's in the code, that's in the zoning code. A person can only have one camper.
Hold on, and so they're doing exactly what they do. So when the city manager called me, they said code enforcement is working on a violation of Dan Billady. They didn't say they'd summoned him yet.
Working on a violation. I agree.
They told him it was a violation. He's trying to remediate this. That's how all these go. None of that is my point. My point is they told him, you cannot do this. And as he said, he's advertising on Hip Camp and other places. And it doesn't matter where the money goes. He's renting out RV sites between 2001 and 2024 that the city told him he could not do. And as he just said a few minutes ago, he knew better and he just did it anyway.
So was the city correct?
Yes.
When they
No,
said
what was the violation then?
that it was in violation. If it was in violation, how come you didn't have to take it all out?
Well,
what was being violated?
You said they were working on a violation. Did they issue him a violation? I want to know if this is something that's remediable, is that a word?
Well, it doesn't matter.
If it's being worked on, which you said you're satisfied with the fact that it's being worked on. To me,
that's not my issue.
Okay.
So, to answer your question, Kevin, in 2021, they told him it's not permissible for you to use those pads to have RVs come in and rent those sites. And they sent that to him in writing, and in the email exchange with them, the city was satisfied that Dan understood he could not do that. And they didn't know this was going on. So...
Do you have a response to that email?
Yeah,
There's a response
Okay.
to that email that they sent me that said I couldn't do this.
Yeah, the city's position on this is that they notified you of this and that you indicated to them that you understood that. So the issue has nothing to do with now the city's back there and they told them it was a violation and they're working out a way to remediate that. That's great. The issue is in 2021, when he was told by code enforcement, you cannot do this,
Can you just
he decided he
Okay.
knew better and did it anyway.
Thank you, Jeff.
I'll call for a
You've
vote.
made your position clear. I think I've made mine clear.
But it's in place now?
What's in place?
Did they change the code and now he's allowed to do it? Because you have them, right?
Does anybody else have anything new to bring to this? Can we move the question here? So we've got some opinions out. Are there other opinions? Dennis or Bob or Eric, did you have anything specific to?
I'm still interested in doing it.
Yeah. I'm hoping Bob would have said there's no evidence to show I was in violation, but not this time.
Bob hasn't said anything. So
I
don't
know.
put words in his mouth. Okay. Anybody else?
So the motion's up, we just need to vote.
Get a motion in a second.
Motion and a second. We're calling the question. I would like to, unless anybody objects. All in favor of appointing Dan to the Protection Commission as trustee representative? All opposed? Thank you. Another apology to make. Evan had requested that he have a chance to speak on an agenda item specifically, which is permitted under our bylaws, and I was given notice ahead of the meeting, and I just forgot, so I skipped over it. Do you still have an interest in speaking on that agenda item to make a statement, or are you? Apologies I skipped right over it, I forgot you asked.
Literally, the statement that I was going to make is that I understand that we're, that folks are citizen volunteers, and that clearly, there was some miscommunication at the board and amongst board members, but that I appreciated that the board was willing to clarify their position and do this in such a way that there would be a clear outcome without contention. So that was literally all I was going to say, and I think it's still pertinent to say it now that I appreciate that everyone is a citizen volunteer here, and that
That I need to be more clear about motions that are.
Oh,
restated.
I was not saying that. I think I have made some doozies of mistakes in my day, but just the idea that
saved us some trouble, and I apologize.
by way of long-winded, thank you guys for trying to do the right thing and move forward in a way that was clear. That's what I was going to say.
Thank you, Evan. Next on our agenda is trustee open session. Does anybody have anything?
Yeah. You have something you were gonna bring up, and we said, I'll bring it up in trustee
Oh,
open
yeah.
session?
No, I'm good.
Water quality.
I think that was so long ago, so long ago.
How is the water quality?
Really
Thank you.
good, right?
Oh, yeah, thank you. Just a statement on the water quality issue. Thank you.
That's kind of why we're here, isn't it?
Items, but I think that's an
That's some good news, good news.
A few hours ago, the lake water quality was really good. Now, the water quality of the lake is exceptional for this time of year. I've actually never seen it as good as it is right now for this time of the year. Phosphorus numbers are low, clarity is high, algae counts are very low. It's excellent. So,
Why would that, I mean, we suspected.
the only thing that we can suspect is what's going on is all of the rainstorms that we had through the end of last year, through the winter months, through the spring, these high intensity, big turnover storms. The amount of water going over the dam at Lake Auburn is way more than we've ever seen before. And it created turnover and flushing of the lake that we don't rarely ever see. And we think that turnover,
I mean, does it
turn
turn
over?
over runoff?
usually the turnover in Lake Auburn, turnover meaning how long does it take the water when it goes into the lake to leave the lake, is about 7 years. But given the rainstorms that we've had, it's much shorter. There's not a lot of export of water from Lake Auburn outside of the water entities. So, and there's not a lot of big
4 or
inputs.
5 inch rainstorms.
So, yeah.
So they came
so
early enough that.
They
the ground was
flushed the phosphorus out of the lake.
Wow.
That's what we believe happened.
Let's do more of that.
Thank you, Kevin, for remembering.
I mean, you need to talk to, but.
I wasn't ready to leave.
Do we have a motion? Yeah, trustee open session, yes.
One more thing. I just, I'm new to the board, and I've been on a lot of other boards, and I see what's going on here. I've been a regulator for my whole life. I've lived in hearing rooms and watched rules of evidence and all of that kind of stuff go on. I was on the planning board for many years, and one of the things we used to do was do a training once a year. And Mr. Sear talked about bylaws, rewriting the bylaws. I don't think rewriting the bylaws is a necessary thing, but training on the bylaws, and if you find questions there, you talk about them, and you think about how you interpret them, and then we can avoid a lot of the stuff that we just went through. I firmly believe that, and it's worth a budget item to do a training once a year.
Well, I've never
think
seen
we
anything
actually-
like, in the years that I've been on here, I've never seen anything
No,
like this.
so you haven't experienced what I've experienced, but
When I
just
first
the
got
training.
on, we did have a couple of review sessions with the attorney, and I think that was very valuable to me as a new board member, but it was many years, 6 years ago, so it would be very good, I think, to do that again. I don't know.
I just sent to both presidents of both the Water and Sewer Board
I
today,
saw that.
trainings for trustees. So I would like to see that offered to the trustees next year, and Dennis was able to attend those with Maine Water Utilities this past year, this last summer.
Yeah, it was free.
Yep,
So
so,
let's talk about when we have an agenda item to discuss, if that's coming up. When is it?
You don't need.
When is that?
well, they
training?
haven't scheduled it for 2025 yet.
Okay, okay.
But it's coming.
So
Do it on-
let's talk about it. We have tentative plans to add an agenda item, even if we just touch on it and
Yep.
if we see what people, reminder, just if you have questions, specific bylaw suggestions, please do send them. I'd like to gather that now, if that's anything anybody feels strongly about, but then we'll have an agenda item on it. Anybody else for trustee open session? Okay, Bob says no.
Now, I remember reading back when Sid handed me the booklet, and oh my gosh, all this homework. Going through and reading all that, you think I remember it all? No.
81 to 2020 was how long it had been.
On the bylaws.
Yep.
Don't you? Yeah. So, yeah.
So, okay, is there anybody else for trustee open session or motion to adjourn?
I move that we adjourn.
Second.
So motion to second, all in favor of adjourning. Thank you. That was unanimous. Thank you all.
We'll take it. We'll take your vote.
Mike,
Mike,